Welcome to another Unwinding with Fiber and Fabric. Today is the last day of Tour de Fleece 2021, and yes, I'm wearing my yellow jersey, or in this case, my wool vest that I was trying to get made in order to wear today. And I managed during Tour de Fleece to finish this project. It didn't turn out exactly as I had hoped. It rolls up on the bottom just a little. Yes, here we go. Let's show that here. Because I didn't do enough of a waistband in order to prevent the rolling. But I'm pretty pleased with it. And I think it is something I will wear this winter when it is not 85 degrees outside and high humidity. But despite the heat and the humidity, I'm wearing my yellow jersey in celebration of the fact that I managed to complete all 21 fibers that I had chosen to spin during Tour de Fleece. Even as much as 2 days ago, I wasn't sure I was going to meet my goal. I had a bit of a rough day on Friday, but I plowed through and I have spent a bunch of time plying and spinning today. Even finishing the last fiber, it's still just a tiny bit damp. I have it plied. This, the last fiber I chose to spin of Tour de Fleece this year, is the Angora that is from the bunny that we had named Ginger. I suspect as it is worked with in the projects ahead, it will bloom. I'll set it up here so you can see. Bloom much more. She had some really long hair. Was a beautiful rabbit. I may even have a picture of her if I can find it. I will definitely include it here. But I was really pleased to get this spun. It is so soft. So this one has not been wrapped up into a hank just yet because it's still drying. 89 yards, 2 ply, and it is Angora soft. So that is the fiber that I finished today. I also wanted to share, I have all the fibers here. I wanted to share this little guy. Yes, I managed to take the alpaca that I spun earlier in the Tour de Fleece this year, and I made this. It's supposed to be a cat. I agree, it looks a little bit more like a dog depending on the angle. Oh my goodness, there's some loud noise in the background. I don't know how much of that is carrying on to the camera. But this little guy is supposed to be a cat. I will certainly show a picture of the book that I got the pattern out of. I found this pattern book and I loved the fact that it was a pattern book designed for hand spun yarn. It is wonderful, and it's my speed of project making because, well, the whole reason he doesn't look as much like a cat as he's supposed to is I've messed up the nose. I have to admit, I only learned how to read a crochet pattern a few years ago. I've been crocheting since I was a very young girl, but I just always made things up as I went. So this whole follow a pattern and actually count stitches thing, well, I have to admit I'm not always that good with it. But the wonderful thing about little crochet stuffies, toys, or amigurumis, depending on what you call them, is that they're adorable no matter how their noses or ears or tails turn out. So this little guy, I haven't named him yet. Right now he's just being called Alpaca Cat. So I'm so pleased. I wanted to try to make something with some of the fibers that I spun during Tour de Fleece, and I did. So I'm going to set him over here out the side for now. So I know I showed a few of these fibers the other day. This is the CVM that I applied. I'm pretty sure in one of my videos I showed some of it. This ended up being 240 yards of CVM. It is a 4-ply. Oh my goodness. It puffs up. It's squishy. This is going to make another one of these kind of toys. Only I suspect, because the gauge of the yarn is bigger, it's going to make a larger toy. So, setting that aside, I also finished plying the Leicester long wool, and I ended up with 130 yards of this. It's a 2-ply, and I was showing this in one of the videos next to, let's see, where are you? The fin sheep. And oh my goodness, I don't know how much it shows on the camera, but I can see the difference between these two breeds. Something that may look a little bit the same, you think might spin the same, I use the same technique. But it's amazing to me how two different breeds can have similar qualities, similar properties, and yet at the same time be completely different. There's a creaminess to this that is just gorgeous. And this is wonderful Leicester long wool. Both of these are 2-plies that are about 20 wraps per inch. And yes, I have already committed myself in my head. I am going to try a bit of tapestry, a little bit of needlepoint, I should say, needlepoint tapestry. I had just finally decided, as I was finishing up the different wools, that I was plying some of these longer wools so thinly that rather than plying them in a 3 or a 4-ply, that I was going to instead use them and try to do a little bit of needlepoint. Another one of them that I'm going to use with it is this wonderful Wensleydale. This is the black Wensleydale and the 2-colored Wensleydale that I spun. It spun up, again, very, very thin. Its 2-ply is about 20 wraps per inch. Love that. I had this Wensleydale was the white and the silver Wensleydale that I spun. Oh, I love how that turned out. I wasn't sure how the silver would show up with the white, but I just love that, the color, the texture, the look. But I had a little bit of this, when I was doing this one, I had a little bit of the 2-color left over. So there's its leftover skein. So in my Wensleydale Wensleydale Leicester long wool and my fin sheep, I have some really pretty color, some pretty fiber that I want to try to do as a needlepoint. I just think it's gorgeous. The natural colors, the tones of it, I just think they're going to be very, very pretty. I may take and, I don't know, I may go ahead and either spin up a little bit more of the Leicester long wool or take a little bit of this and put some dye on it so that my project has a little pop of color, maybe some red. But for the most part, oh, I just think that is, let me put it up there, just lovely colors. Okay. So, showing you my long wools. Oh, yes. One of the fibers that I just finished in the last couple days, maybe, I can't remember which I did yesterday, which I did the day before, but this is the mohair. And this is the first time I've spun this mohair and plied it by itself. I haven't blended it with anything else. And it did have a lot of dander, which did, for the most part, come out as I applied it, as I spun it into the singles. But I have to tell you, I've only spun mohair once before all by itself. This, oh, I can now see why people like mohair. This is at 24 wraps per inch, 2-ply, 138 yards. and it is the silkiest feeling fiber I have spun besides silk. It is just a completely amazing fiber. So I really think that when it comes to mohair, but maybe to any animal, each animal is different. And I know that the mohair that I have spun in the past, I crocheted up into a cover for my phone. It was so much coarser than this. It was so much, it was beautiful, but it just did not have this silkiness. This mohair, I would have loved to have met the sheep. I mean, sorry. I would have loved to have met the goat. Brain, tongue, not connecting. This mohair, I'd have loved to have met the goat because while it had lots of dander, it is ultra smooth and silky and wonderful. So, this one is definitely a lesson in do not judge a breed by one sample, because you can just get such just completely different textures and fibers. And I now understand why mohair can make some beautiful garments. This is just, I mean, look at the drape. This is just lovely. So, a little bit of mohair. I'm just really pleased with this. All right, so yes, the really unique fiber of the spin is my bison. And I think that I really am going to eventually spin this with some Angora or something else, blend it. By itself, it is a finicky spin. Because it's very short. It is a short fiber. It's a soft fiber. I mean, there's just no comparing that. This is just, it's fluff. It's just absolute fluff. But I think I will want to spin it, especially where I'm not going to take the time to make sure to get every guard hair out of it. I think I'll blend it with something and just have it be, it's fun. It honestly, for me, is a bit like spinning my cat's hair. It's a novelty. I know that bison makes wonderful garments, wonderful spinning, but it's a little more finicky than I'd like. However, I will say it would be a really good practice fiber for me to use prior to touching the caveat that I have stored away, because this is not, ooh, let's just sit down and relax and spin. This is short little fluff. This takes a little bit more finesse than I think I had the energy for when I spun it this week. It was enjoyable. It's all been enjoyable. The whole of Tour de Fleece has been enjoyable, but that was finicky, and I felt just filthy afterwards, because even though it's been washed, it is it has vegetable matter. It's so densely fluff. It's so tiny fluff that I was just covered. So I know I showed the Jacob in an earlier video. Here's the Jacob. Again, that was just such a delightful spin. Very pleased with it. And I showed this Angora. This is the Angora, or sorry, not Angora. This is the CVM that did not go into my big, hank of CVM. I had, when I spun, I'm trying to not drop all this on the ground. When I spun this big, massive hank of CVM, 4-ply, squishy, wonderful, I had a little tiny bit left over of 3 of the 4 fibers. I ran out of the dark brown before I finished. So, not wanting to just do a 3-ply, instead, it just so happened I had a leftover bit of Angora. And I did a 4-ply with the 3 leftovers of the CVM and the 1 leftover of the Angora. And so I have this odd little skein that I'm sure will go into a stuffed animal sometime in the future. But speaking of the Angora that I keep accidentally saying, I did finish spinning my Angoras. And what I did with the Angora, there's my Angora, okay? What I did with my Angora is, this Angora is Freddie, and I went ahead and I left it spun by itself because Freddie is a black and white Angora, and you do get some color variation in there. But I took Ollivander and Fiona, Ollivander being a gray bunny and Fiona being more of a taupe colored bunny, and I applied them together to get this hank of 158 yards, 22 wraps per inch loveliness of Angora. And I'm really pleased that I spun those together. It's a lovely color. It's a lovely, lovely soft fiber. And hold on while I get the bug off my leg. And it has given me 3 wonderful additions to, let's see if I can get that right up to the camera, wonderful additions to my stash of Angora, 100% Angora yarns. I've spun them thin, I've kept them 2-ply. The way that these will most likely get used is that I will, when I crochet something or knit something, I will probably just add this to whatever it is I'm knitting for a row or 2 or 3, so that I have a band of the Angora. If I were trying to make something that had Angora already in it, I'd most likely blend. 20% Angora to 80% wool is more than enough to get a fabulous bloom and to get all the warmth. I like to keep some 100% skeins that are spun small or spun thin. I like to keep those on hand because they add extra depth. So when I'm making a hat and I get just past the brim area, I may do a band of the whatever the wool is I'm using and an extra strand, a strand of the Angora, and it'll give an extra fluff. So I like to keep some of the 100% skeins on hand for these kind of little extra accent pieces of my knitting and crocheting. But yes, that is a lovely color variety there. I'm very pleased. So that is all of my fibers and my creations. It's been, I'll keep him here with me. We'll keep him right there. It has been a wonderful tour de fleece. I have really enjoyed it. I have enjoyed talking to new people, and I've enjoyed watching people just all over the world spin up yarn, share their stories, share beautiful final yarns. It's been wonderful. It has not disappointed. It's been another fabulous year. And now I'm ready to take a couple days break from spinning and get ready for the Summer Olympics and the equivalent Ravelinics Summer Games of Craft that we have. I am looking forward to that. I will probably not tackle too many projects, but I am sure something like this little guy, maybe out of this yarn, will get made during that period of time. I certainly see something like that happening. So I hope you've enjoyed another Unwinding with Fiber and Fabric. I hope that you are having a wonderful time staying cool if you're in the hot climate, staying warm if you're in a cold climate, but mostly staying safe and finding joy in the things that you do and the company you keep. It has been a wonderful, wild 23 days of Tour de Fleece, and I wish you all the very best for the days ahead. I am sure I'll see you again soon, but I believe right now I have a quilt that is calling me, or a couple quilts that are calling me, and eventually, in just a few weeks, another one of these little guys. So, we'll see you again later. Have a wonderful day. Bye.